All right, what an amazing night of fights. This pay-per-view had so many amazing early finishes that the entire card only lasted a couple hours. Every single fight brought a lot of excitement, but of course, I have to talk about that main event. I mean, just incredible. There's no other way to describe it. One of the best fights I've ever seen. When you talk about a fight between the pound for pound number one versus the pound for pound number two guys that are both champions in their own right, the expectations are going to be really high, and this one completely delivered. Both of these guys answered a lot of questions in this one. There's a lot of disrespect coming Volkanovski's way. A lot of people thought he was just going to get completely mauled by Islam on the ground, and a lot of people thought that Islam's striking was not up to par, and both of these narratives got completely shot down. From the start, I was a believer that the whole idea of Volkanovski just getting destroyed on the ground was just not going to happen. While yes, Islam has completely dominated a lot of people on the ground, Volkanovski is just a different animal. This guy started his MMA career at welterweight, and he wasn't just a welterweight. He had to cut down from the 214 pounds he was as a professional rugby player to make 170, while being one of the most cerebral strikers in the UFC. The guy barely has a neck to choke, and he's coming in there with a reach advantage. I thought this was basically a 50-50 fight and was a lot more evenly matched than previously assumed. And when you watch the fight, that's exactly how it played out. These guys looked to be evenly matched the whole way. There were so many close rounds, and man, I'm glad I'm not a judge because some of those were just too close to call. We saw both of these guys rock each other on the feet. We saw Alex not only survive on the ground, but even attempt a couple takedowns of his own. And overall, he never really looked like he was in serious trouble on the ground. The entire time, he was just kind of smiling, joking, constantly giving the thumbs up. The guy's grappling is just way better than most people thought. And the same thing goes for Islam. Islam has some great striking. He was able to hit Volkanovski with some counters, and he was able to hurt him a couple times. A lot of people thought this fight was a robbery. And when I watched the fight live, I definitely thought Alex won. But a lot of that's probably because of the crowd's reactions going completely insane every single time Volkanovski got back up to his feet. And then on top of that, ending the fifth round, being on top. At the end of this one, you just kind of had the feeling that Volkanovski did the impossible. And Islam definitely looked kind of defeated when he was going back to his corner. But when they read the decision out loud, I can understand. I can completely understand how Islam won this fight. While Alex proved a lot of people wrong by getting back up after being taken down, the fact of the matter is Islam was able to get him down and spend a considerable amount of time in a dominant position. So that being said, I can't call it a robbery. I just think these are two guys that are perfectly evenly matched. Immediately after the fight, Islam's calling for a real contender. He wants to fight a guy who has worked his way up the rankings, but I want to see that rematch. I think that rematch would be even better than the first fight. Alex coming in with more respect for Islam's striking, Islam coming in with more respect for Alex's grappling. I'd be really interested to see what kind of fight we get in the rematch. But since it doesn't look like the rematch is happening, or at least not anytime soon, Alex Volkanovski already has a clear contender at 145 with Yair Rodriguez finishing Josh Emmett. And Yair is a really interesting matchup for Volkanovski. Yair is super tall, super long, and he knows exactly how to use that length. With all of the crazy kicks he throws, being the taller, longer fighter, I think he has a good chance of getting Volkanovski some serious problems on the feet. And what's next for Islam? Well, if he wants a real true contender, the only guy that's really proved himself up to this point has got to be Dustin Poirier. But since the UFC doesn't really like to give guys third shots at the title, I think Dustin's